Shalom, shalom. It's brother Yakov from the congregation of the children of Yasharala. Um, Today I want to do a lesson on learn not the way of the heathen because we've noticed that in recent time, or it's been for a minute now, that Judah and the northern kingdom have been following after the ways of the heathen, right? We learned their ways, we learned their works, we learned their so-called religions. We learned their so-called gods, right? We learned their false things, right? We learned them, and now we got to change and not basically learn the way to eat. All right, we got to come out of it. So first thing I want to do is give all honor and glory to the Most High Yahweh by Hashem, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, right? In the name of His Son Yahweh Shai, right? Um, Shalom to all the Israelites, to the four corners of the earth that's enduring, keeping the commandments to the Most High. You gotta keep going, man. You gotta keep going. But first thing I want to do is get Proverbs chapter 3 and 31. It says, "Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways." Now, right, what season we are in right now, right? We know what season we are in right now. We in a wicked so-called Christmas season, right? That so-called wicked holiday spirit. And you can feel it, right? You can smell it. You know, you remember that smell that you used to smell when that Christmas tree was up, right? That wicked pagan tree was up, right? And you remember that smell. You remember that, right? It's wicked, right? It's got a whole spirit behind it, a whole wicked evil spirit, right? Now let's go to Psalms chapter 37. Yeah, I gotta search it all the way. Psalms 37. Psalms 37. Psalms chapter 37 and verse 1. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. Right? When and I've seen, some things, like you can see it on Facebook sometimes. There's always that person, right? The person that's, claim to be a so-called inner truth, and they like, my family, and I miss, meeting up with them, and I miss, you know, being with them on these wicked days, right? I miss doing these things with them, right? It says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be envious against the workers of iniquity. And that's being envious of, right? You being envious of your of what our oppressors have taught our families, and now you envious of your family. They're doing evil, right? And you supposed to be in this truth, right? You supposed to be separating from that and putting that away, but you're envious of them, and you want to do right along with what they're doing. You want to go meet up for these days, right? When you can go, spend time with your family any day, but you could chose these specific days that you want to go do this, right? Let's go to verse 7. It says, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prosper in his way, right? We think this people prosper because they're being wicked, right? They're doing these days and they're just living perfectly fine, right? They're doing these days and they seem to be happy and joy, right? But we got to know that we have to wait on the Most High, right? Let's go. It says, because of him who prospered in his way, because of man who bringeth wicked devices to pass, right? They plan this, right? They have the lights hanging up for it since after so-called Halloween, right? Pagan Halloween. They have the lights already hanging up, right? It says, verse 9, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Most High, they shall inherit the earth. We waiting upon the Most High, right? We doing what the Most High asks us to do in his laws, right? We do the days that our forefathers did, right? If it's not in the scriptures, we do not partake in it, right? So let's go to Psalms 73. Psalm chapter 73 and verse 3. And it reads, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked, right? Some people can get envious, right? When you see they're prospering, right? They're prospering in their wicked ways, and you start to get envious. And you start to think like, is it okay to do this? No, it's not. It's paganism, right? It's a worship of a false god. And the Most High says in uh, Exodus chapter 20, right? Um, no gods before him, right? You can't make up no statues and standing images. Let's go to Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 21. Right? Galatians chapter 5 and verse 21. It reads, in beings, let's read up a little bit. Galatians 5 and 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, right? When you do Christmas, when you do these pagan days, you're doing idolatry, right? Witchcraft, hatred, variance, immolations, wrath, strife, seditions, and heresies, envyings, murder, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of which I tell you before, as I have told you also in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So if you're being a worker of iniquity, which is every year you're doing worshiping false gods, right? Year round, you're worshiping false gods. You worshiping other gods, what the Most High said don't do it. You're doing idolatry. It's an idolatry. It's spiritual fornication. It's adultery against the Most High, right? As his children, right? As we belong to the Most High, right? As that bride, we cannot be adulterers, right? We cannot be commit fornication against the Most High. We can not commit idolatry, right? It's wicked. It's in Leviticus 18:31. Leviticus 18, verse 31, it reads, Salakia. It's verse 3. So Leviticus chapter 18, verse 3. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, ye shall not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. Now we can basically put this as the modern day Egypt, right? Because it says we will go to Egypt again. Egypt means narrow place or bondage, right? Bondage. That's where we at. We're in bondage, and it says do not do after the land, and that's what we have been doing. That's what the work that we have been that we have came to, right? It's the things that we have been taught. We can go to Leviticus 20 and 23, and it reads, and ye shall not walk in the manners of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. Right? Most High tells us not to walk after the manners of the nations, right? They taught us this, right? They made this Christmas thing up, right? After all the pagan god, like everything comes from Rome. Everything, if you notice, everything comes from Babylon, Rome, and they keep it here today, right? We got to separate from that and leave it off, right? Put off that old man, like the scriptures say, put off that old man. Learn to do righteousness, right? Learn to seek the Most High in all things, right? Learn to seek Him. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 12 and verse 30. Deuteronomy 12 and 30 says, we're going to read to 31. It says, take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them. It's a trap when you start doing this, right? Because we see some of our family members, it's like a trap. It's like they can't get enough. They can't get out of it, right? You can show them scripture, you can, right, bring it up to them, but it's nothing that they can do. Like, I don't, the Most High has to open your eyes, of course. But I feel like it's a snare, it's a trap, right? It's a trap, and they get stuck in it. They get trapped in it. It says, Deuteronomy 12 and 30, it says, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods. And that's what we're doing, right? When you do Christmas, when you do all these pagan days, Easter, you know, Valentine's Day, you're following after a pagan god, right? Birthdays, you're doing it after a pagan god, right? It says, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so I do likewise, right? Don't put that in your head, right? Don't do that. Don't seek after their false gods, right? Verse 31, it says, Thou shalt not do so unto the Most High Yahweh thy power, for every abomination to the Most High Yahweh, which he hated, have they done unto their powers, their gods, right? Their false gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods, right? That's them sacrificing, right, to the false god, right? The pagan god, right? Let's get Ezekiel chapter 20, verse Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 7. Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 7. Then said I unto them, cast ye away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am the Most High Yahweh your power. So we supposed to be separating from these wicked pagan uh, uh, false gods, right? Any of these pagan days that our enemies celebrate, we supposed to separate from them. Don't go learn after their so-called religion. Don't go learn after their so-called gods. We supposed to serve the Most High Yahweh, right? That's our power. It says, verse 8, but they rebelled against me and would not hearken unto me. That's what our people do. They did not every man cast away the abomination of their eyes, neither they forsake the idols of Egypt, right? These are all idols of Egypt, of our bondage, right? Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Egypt. That's why we suffer. That's why we get shot down today. That's why we suffer in our captivity in Egypt, right? That's why we suffer here. He's punishing us here in the place where we commit these abominations, right? Against the Most High, right? Ephesians, Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 6, it reads, let no man deceive you with vain words. For because of these things cometh the wrath of the Most High upon the children of disobedience, right? We cannot be disobedient to the Most High. He tells us what to do, right? Deuteronomy 10 and 12, it says, what you should do to love the Lord your God, right? Roughly paraphrasing, but let me get it. Let's bring it up. Let's bring it up. Deuteronomy 10 and 12. Let's get it. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12 says, and now, Israel, what did the Lord thy God require of thee but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways and to love him, right? And to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul. That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Don't be disobedient to the Most High, man. Just if he tells us to do something, just do it. It says, be not yet ye therefore partakers with them, right? Don't do what they're doing. For ye were sometimes in darkness. We was there before, right? We was there before, but now are ye light in the Lord, right? We in the light now. Walk as children of the light. We supposed to be walking like that, not going back and saying I miss doing that with my family. No, we don't miss it at all. We love keeping the Most High's commandments, right? For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Most High, right? We know what's acceptable to the Most High now, right? We didn't before, but now we do. The Most High opened our eyes to it. Let's keep going. It says, verse 11, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them, correct them, right? Reprove and correct that we can't do that, right? We're not supposed to be doing that, right? We know what we ought to do, right? Right? It says, why trimmest thou ways to seek love? How does scripture say? It says first Peter's and chapter 4. I mean First Peter chapter 4. My bad. I gotta go chapter 4. It's a lot here. First Peter chapter 4 And verse 2, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of the Most High. Not to what what we lust, what men lust for after the flesh. Like what you would lust for is like, oh, that seems like a good time with my family, right? That seems like a good time, right? We that seems like a fun time, right? Just make believe stuff that they make believe and put it on there, right? They add things to that Christmas stuff, and it all goes back to false gods, right? Right? And I got some, I can get some pictures, right? Like it says, pagan roots of Christmas, right here. There you go. It says Winter Festival, Saturnalia, what is it? Mithra, Nimrod, and Tammuz, right? This is all going back. And look, this would look if you didn't know about this, right? This is what they used to wear back in Greece, right? Look, let me read it. It says, Pelias together with the patosas were the most common types of hats in archaic and classical era 8th, 4th century BC Greece. In the 5th century BC, a bronze version began to appear in ancient Greece and became a popular infantry helmet. It occasionally had a horsehair crest, right? The Greek pilos resembled the Roman and Etruscan pelias, which were typical made of felt. The Greek and Latin pelias were smaller versions similar to the skull cap, right? Similar caps were worn in later antiquity and early medieval ages in various parts of Europe, as seen in Gallic, right? Look at this. And Frankish dress and the Albanian traditional felt cap. Police worn today in Albania, right, in adjacent areas are originated from a similar felt cap worn by the ancient uh, Illyrians, were a group of Indo-European speaking peoples who inhabited the Western Balkan Peninsula in ancient times. Three main Paleo Balkan populations, along with the Thracians, Greeks, served as the distinguishing sign of the Jewish people in the Holy Roman Empire, right? Depicting look at that. You see that? And this is what, don't it look similar to this, right? Everything is going back to Rome. Everything is they base everything off of them in Rome, right? Like Saturnalia, right? This is what Christmas goes into also, right? Saturnalia. They just bring stuff and place it and they try to remember, right? That's what they're doing though. They're remembering their people, right? This is all from them, right? Rome. This is all them, right? It says Saturnalia is an ancient Roman festival and holiday in honor of the god Saturn. God Saturn was an ancient Roman religion and a character in Roman mythology. He was described as a god of time, generation, desolation, abundance, wealth, agriculture, periodic renewal, and liberation. Saturn's mythological reign was depicted as a golden age. You see this? This is crazy, right? Let's keep going. It says, verse 2, that he may longer, okay, we read that one. Okay, verse 3, for the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, right? We had the same willing that they had to do these things. We that's what we was planning for. That's what we hung the lights up for. That's what we hung the ornaments on a tree, right? Worshiping a false god that we did not know about, but now we do. And we thank the Most High that we woke up to this, right? To this truth. It says, when we woke and when we walked in lascivious lust, excessive wine, revelings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries. That's what we did. That's what we did. It says, verse 4, now, right, wherein they think it strange that you run not with them to the same excess of riot, speaking evil of you. Now they think it's strange, and they try to bring it up to your remembrance. Remember you was with, remember that Christmas, right? Remember that Valentine's Day? Remember that Easter day when we was together and we had so much? They try to bring it in, try to spark it to your remembrance, but we putting off that old man. We don't care about none of that, right? This is Exodus 23. Exodus chapter 23, verse 24. It says, thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them, quite break down their images. Right? Keep that away from us, right? That's now being wise is you would keep it away from you. You won't go around it, right? Of course they're gonna have it in the stores. They all we in Babel, we in captivity, right? They're gonna have it in their stores. If you're working at a job and they say, look, can you put up these declarations? I can't. I'm not doing it, right? That's what we're supposed to be going into, right? That's a spiritual way of breaking down their images. I'm not doing that. I'm not celebrating that. I'm not hanging up I'm not hanging up decorations for the store or nothing, right? That's us breaking down the images and not following after that, right? And not even putting up the lights, not helping none. Your mom calls you, hey, son, can you come help put these Christmas lights up and help me put this Christmas tree together? Mom, I can't, right? Dad, I can't, right? Sister, I can't. Brother, I can't. I can't do that, right? Go to Romans 12. We getting through this, right? We getting through these precepts on how we should not learn the way of the heathen and separate from them, right? Romans 12 and 2. It reads, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good, what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. We supposed to be proving what is the will of the Most High, what is the perfect will of the Most High, not our own will, not the fleshly will, not the will of man, none of that. We're supposed to be proving what is acceptable to the Most High, right? Not acceptable to the kids, what is acceptable to the Most High, right? The kids will learn. If you teach the kids, they will learn it and they will put it away. But you got to teach it. You can't continue to do wickedness, right? It says, verse 3, for I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. That's verse 4, for as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we being many are one body in the Mashiach, and every one members one another, having the gifts according to the grace that is given to us. Whether prophesy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith. Right? This is verse 7. Our ministry, let us wait in our ministry, or he that teacheth on teaching. Right? We just want to stay sober and according to the acceptable will and the Most High, right? We want to stay on that, right? We can do it. Just keep going, right? Jeremiah, come on, you got poop. Come on, let's keep going. Yeah. Let's keep going. It says Romans chapter 7, right? Romans chapter 7, verse 12. It says, "Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just and good." That's what's holy and good to us, right? You got to keep going and keeping these commandments. Keep on um going after righteousness, right? Learn not the way of the heathen. Learn not